What if an entire civilization, millions of people, massive cities, centuries of history, simply ceased to exist? Not conquered, not slowly faded, just gone. No goodbye, no explanation, like someone hit delete on an entire chapter of human history. This has happened, not once, not twice, but multiple times throughout our past, and the terrifying part, we still don't fully know why. Today, we're going to talk about 3 ancient civilizations that vanished from history so completely, so abruptly, that modern historians are still arguing about what happened. One of them built pyramids before the Mayans even existed, and somehow did it without pottery, writing, or war. Another was so rich it made ancient kings jealous, and then disappeared in a single night. And the third? They brought down almost every major civilization on Earth in one sweeping wave of chaos, and then vanished into thin air. Stay with me, because once you hear these stories, you'll never look at the end of civilization the same way again. Let's go back 5,000 years. The year is around 3000 BCE. In most of the world, humans are still figuring things out: basic farming, small villages, simple tools. But in a coastal river valley in what is now Peru, something extraordinary is happening. A civilization is rising, and it's doing things that should be impossible for its time. The Norte Chico people, also called the Corral civilization, are building massive pyramids. We're talking structures as tall as a 6-story building, covering areas the size of 4 football fields. They're constructing enormous amphitheaters, complex irrigation systems, and planned city layouts. They had a population that numbered in the tens of thousands. Here's the part that should break your brain. They did all of this without pottery. No clay pots, no ceramic bowls. Think about how fundamental pottery was to ancient civilizations. It's how you store grain, cook food, carry water. Every major early civilization had it. But Norte Chico, they skipped it entirely and still built pyramids. And it gets stranger. There is almost no evidence of war. No weapons buried with soldiers, no defensive walls protecting the cities, no mass graves from battles. In a world where ancient civilizations almost always fought each other for resources, the Norte Chico people seem to have simply not done that for centuries. What kept them together? What made their society function without the two things, pottery and warfare, that historians assumed were essential to early civilization? The answer appears to be fish and music. Norte Chico sat along the coast, and their economy was built on anchovy fishing. Coastal communities processed and traded fish inland, and inland communities traded crops back. It was a mutual system. Nobody needed to conquer anyone because everyone had something the other needed. And those massive amphitheaters, they were likely used for communal ceremonies, for music, for collective identity. Their social glue wasn't an army, it was a shared culture. They were, in a sense, the anti-empire, a civilization built on cooperation, not conquest. And then, around 1800 BCE, Norte Chico collapsed. The cities were abandoned, the population scattered. Some researchers believe a series of catastrophic El Niño weather events destroyed their coastal fishing economy. Others think internal tensions finally broke the system apart. We don't know for certain. What we do know is that a civilization that had thrived for over 1,000 years, longer than ancient Rome ever lasted, was simply gone, and it would be forgotten for nearly 4,000 years until modern archaeologists started digging. Now, let's move forward in time and across the ocean to a place that sounds like it belongs in a myth, because honestly, it kinda does. The year is somewhere around 800 BCE. In the southwestern corner of what is now Spain, at the mouth of the Guadalquivir River, there exists a civilization so wealthy that the ancient Greeks wrote about it in awe. They called it Tartessus. The Tartessians sat on top of one of the richest metal deposits in the ancient world: silver, copper, tin, and gold. They were extraordinary metalworkers, trading their resources with Phoenician merchants, Greek sailors, and anyone else who came knocking. Ancient texts describe them as almost impossibly wealthy. One Greek account says a Tartessian king gifted visiting traders silver and gold in amounts so enormous that the sailors couldn't even carry it all back to their ships. Think about what that means. These people were so flush with precious metals that they were basically giving it away. They had their own writing system, their own distinct culture. They were, by every measure, a thriving, sophisticated civilization at the center of ancient Atlantic trade. And then, sometime around 530 BCE, they were gone. Not gradually, not slowly weakened by war or plague. The archaeological evidence suggests the disappearance was sudden. There are sites in southern Spain where Tartessian cities simply stop. The artifacts, the structures, the cultural traces end abruptly. It's like someone flipped a switch. What happened? The leading theory is a combination of factors: Carthaginian expansion cutting off their trade routes, the collapse of the Phoenician merchant networks they depended on, and possibly devastating floods that buried entire cities under river sediment. Some researchers believe their famous capital city literally sank into a marshy delta after catastrophic flooding. Sound familiar? Some historians think this may be where the legend of Atlantis, the wealthy, advanced civilization swallowed by the sea, actually comes from. A faint, distorted memory of a real place that really did disappear beneath the water. The Tartessians were so thoroughly erased from history that for centuries, scholars weren't even sure they were real. They existed at the edge of Greek and Roman accounts, described in vague and mythologized terms. Their writing system still hasn't been fully decoded. A civilization that dominated Atlantic trade for centuries left behind almost nothing but mystery. Now here's where the story gets genuinely eerie, because this final civilization doesn't just disappear. They appear and disappear, and in between, they manage to end the ancient world. It is approximately 1200 BCE. The Bronze Age is at its height. Egypt is a superpower. The Hittite Empire controls vast swaths of the Middle East. The Mycenaean Greeks are building legendary palaces. Trade networks stretch across the entire Mediterranean. It's arguably the most connected, prosperous, and sophisticated era the world had yet seen. And then, within the span of about 50 years, almost all of it collapses. Palaces burn and are never rebuilt. Trade routes go silent. Writing systems disappear for centuries. City after city is destroyed and abandoned. Historians call it the Late Bronze Age collapse, and it stands as one of the most catastrophic civilizational collapses in human history. Imagine if in the next 50 years, every major government collapsed, all international trade stopped, and the ability to read and write disappeared. That's the scale of what happened. At the center of it all, Egyptian records describe a mysterious group they call the Sea Peoples. These were not one civilization, but a coalition of seafaring raiders and migrants, possibly from multiple collapsing regions, who swept across the Mediterranean like a storm, attacking Egypt, destroying the Hittites, burning the Mycenaean cities, and leaving devastation everywhere they went. Pharaoh Ramesses III fought them off in a naval battle he was so proud of, he carved the whole thing into temple walls. The carvings show wild-looking warriors in feathered headdresses, fighting with distinctive weapons and arriving in distinctive ships. They were terrifying enough that the most powerful ruler in the ancient world felt the need to brag about surviving their attack. And then, they vanished. Who were they? Where did they come from? Nobody knows for certain. Some researchers believe they were refugees from collapsing civilizations, displaced Mycenaeans, Cypriots, people from Anatolia, all driven together by climate disaster, drought, and political collapse, turning to raiding as a survival strategy. Others believe they were a deliberate military coalition. Some theories even place them as the ancestors of the later Philistines and other Mediterranean cultures. The psychological truth buried in this mystery is haunting. The Sea Peoples might have been the product of collapse as much as the cause of it. A mass of desperate, displaced peoples, survivors of a civilization that was already dying, flooding across the ancient world and accidentally finishing off everything that remained. They appeared out of nowhere. They collapsed an entire era of history. And then they dissolved into other peoples and other places, leaving behind only a name and a mystery. Here's what strikes me most about all three of these stories. Every one of these civilizations, Norte Chico, the Tartessians, the Sea Peoples, was invisible to us for most of recorded history, not because they weren't real, not because they weren't significant, but because civilization is fragile, and memory is even more fragile. Psychologists have a concept called survivorship bias. We tend to study and remember the things that survived, and we forget that the things that didn't survive were just as real, just as complex, just as human. For every Rome that we remember, there may be 10 Norte Chicos we've never heard of. And the hard truth is this: every civilization that has ever existed believed it was permanent. The Tartessians built cities, the Sea Peoples waged wars, Norte Chico built pyramids meant to last forever. None of them imagined that a few thousand years later, humans would stand over their ruins and ask, who were these people and where did they go? What can we take from this? Maybe that the things we think are permanent, our systems, our societies, our certainties, are more fragile than we want to believe. History isn't a straight line of progress. It's a series of rises and disappearances, most of which we never even hear about. And somewhere out there, buried under sediment and time, there are probably more of them, more civilizations we haven't found yet, more mysteries waiting to be dug up. So here's the thought I want to leave you with. If the Norte Chico civilization, which lasted longer than Rome, could be completely forgotten for 4,000 years, what else have we forgotten? What other chapters of human history have been quietly erased by time, flood, or simple neglect? We like to think we understand the past, but maybe the past is mostly darkness, and we're just standing in the few small circles of light we've managed to find. The real history of humanity? We've barely scratched the surface. If this made you curious, hit subscribe, because next time we're going deeper.